Everywhere you look, people are saying Portugal's falling apart. Housing costs are through the roof. The government is struggling to agree on anything. And immigration, well, it seems to be caught in the middle right now. But is this really a make or break moment for Portugal? Or are we just getting caught up in the headlines? Many people feel like this is the make or break moment for Portugal in the international community. And the repercussions of what happens next, they won't be short term. They'll likely last for decades. But I want to offer you a different perspective, one that's less about panic and more about perception. The truth is, Portugal doesn't really know what it wants right now. The media is shouting about immigration, housing, and politics. Each side is spinning a story that suits themselves. Meanwhile, most of us, expats, locals, and would-be movers, are trying to figure out what's actually real. My name's Josh. Since moving to Portugal in 2020, my wife and I have seen and experienced a number of changes to the migration process. Some good, some bad, and some that honestly just confused everyone. What's interesting is that every time the government makes a big change, people predict disaster. Right now, let's look at 3 big changes that supposedly would kill immigration to Portugal and see what really happened. Starting in 2022, we saw the first big shift that had people worried. The change from the D7 visa to the new D8 visa. On paper, it didn't sound like a huge deal. Portugal launched the D8 or digital nomad visa in October 2022. At first, most people thought it was just extra clarity about what kind of income people had and how they planned to support themselves. But when the fine print came out, it sent shockwaves through the expat community. If you're not sure of the difference, it's simple. D7 is passive income like pensions, investments, or rental properties. D8 is active income like freelance or remote work. The catch? You can't mix the two to meet the minimum income requirement. Here's where the real problem started. D7 requires at least 1 Portuguese minimum wage per month in passive income, while the D8 requires 4 times minimum wage in active income. That's a massive jump, especially for average digital nomads or semi-retirees working part-time online while waiting to access retirement funds. Suddenly, the digital nomad visa that everyone thought would open doors actually closed them for a lot of people. I remember one viewer, a freelancer from Canada, said, "I'm concerned about the income amount being 4 times what it was for the D7. If I'm hearing that right, it's well over 4,600 Canadian dollars a month, and I do okay, but I have nowhere near that. Under the D7 amount, I would have been fine, as my income can fluctuate." She ended up staying in Canada and delaying her dream move to Portugal. We do have the hope she makes it over here when she's ready to retire, though. Back then, predictions started flying that this would crash Portugal's immigration numbers, especially for Americans and Canadians. And honestly, I kind of believed it at first. We started to see frustration in our YouTube comments. People saying things like, "Portugal doesn't want us anymore." It really felt like a turning point. But here's what actually happened. Within 6 months, things stabilized. People adjusted. Some found creative ways to qualify. Others waited. Plenty of new movers just accepted that Portugal had 2 paths now. The shift changed the type of people moving here, but it didn't stop the flow. It just reshuffled the deck. In fact, CEF data showed visa approvals didn't collapse after the D8 launch. They shifted from retirees to younger remote working professionals. It's funny how that works. Even a small change on paper can make a huge difference in how people feel. The system didn't become harder, it just became clear. And that clarity scared people. That was the first end of immigration as we know it moment that turned out not to be the end at all. Just as people were adjusting, Portugal made another huge move, this time affecting investors. In October 2023, real estate investment was removed as an option for obtaining the golden visa. This was part of the more housing legislation package. From 2012 to 2023, over 70% of all golden visas were tied to real estate. It wasn't just popular, it was the program. I spoke with an agent in Algarve who said within 48 hours of the announcement, 3 deals fell through. People were panicking. Everyone assumed the program was dead. But here's the twist. In 2024, golden visa approvals didn't drop. They increased by 72%. One investor had planned to buy property in Cascais, but pivoted to the fund route instead. He said, honestly, it's easier now. Less stress with management, still a path to residency. The program reshaped who was applying. Medium to long-term investors, not short-term property flippers. Then Spain ended their golden visa program entirely in April 2025, sending even more interest Portugal's way. Sam, who works with golden visa buyers, told us the pivot to Portugal was almost immediate. Some clients backed out, but most simply moved their plans here. To me, this was the moment I realized Portugal isn't falling apart. It's just messy. It reacts emotionally and politically, sometimes inconsistently, but it always keeps moving forward. The country adjusts, and so do the people who want to be here. Just when people thought they had a handle on visas and investors, Portugal shook things up again, this time in the tax world. NHR 2.0, the evolution of the non-habitual resident program, came into effect January 1st, 2024. A couple from the US close to retirement told me the changes felt like their dream move had been shattered overnight. But while headlines screamed doom and gloom, the real-world effect was subtle. Within 6 months, anxiety faded, new movers didn't dwell on NHR 1.0 versus 2.0. They looked at Portugal holistically, climate, cost of living, safety, quality of life, and made decisions based on that, not just taxes. A family from the UK decided to move after NHR 2.0 came into effect. They didn't care about old rules. Lifestyle, community, and safety mattered more. After visas, investments, and taxes, Portugal is now shaking up citizenship requirements. Proposals could extend naturalization from 5 years to 7 to 10 years. For long-term residents, this isn't just bureaucracy. It touches the idea of belonging. At a practical level, it's about the cartão de cidadão. Kalie and I would love one of these. It's not just ID, it's efficiency. Scheduling appointments, signing documents, accessing portals. For citizens, it's seamless. For non-citizens, it's a headache. Beyond logistics, citizenship gives security and permanence. It made me think, without citizenship, how secure are we really? We might have a house, a job, a community, but the permanence isn't guaranteed. Citizenship also opens doors to political participation. Some Portuguese friends believe expats shouldn't vote. Others think that anyone living here long-term should have a voice. It's a debate about identity and belonging. And then there's the human element, our daughter. Maybe when our daughter gets older, she'll want to explore her options of living somewhere else in Europe. She'd have the ability to do that. After all, she's far more Portuguese and European than us. You should see how she eats with a knife and fork, while we often eat the clunkier American way. It's amazing what kids learn at school. She has a Portuguese love for soup that likely only Portuguese understand. At this point, she's lived less than 20% of her life in the United States, and the other 80+% in Portugal. While we do speak English at home, she listens to a ton of Ana Moura, Raquel Tavares, and Miriza. If you know, you know, and if you don't, Google it or YouTube it, because you're missing out. She's already more Portuguese than us. The music, the food, the lifestyle. Citizenship would give her identity recognition and freedom to explore Europe while keeping Portugal as home. Kids playing in a Portuguese square, eating with locals, walking through vineyards, listening to music. Will this rule deter people? Maybe short term, but my belief, it won't crush immigration. Policy can adjust mechanics, but It can't take away sunshine, food, safety, and the warmth of the people. Rules change, but the essence of Portugal remains. Portugal has gone through a whirlwind. Visas, golden visas, taxes, and now citizenship reforms. Headlines scream chaos, but reality? More nuanced. Programs evolve, people adjust, Portugal's appeal remains. Kalie and I have seen it firsthand. Every time there's a headline, we pause, assess, and see the new wave of people discovering Portugal and falling in love just like we did. Rules can change, but the essence of life here doesn't. Take the information, plan, and act. Don't let fear or media spin dictate your decisions. If you like content like this, practical insights, myth-busting, real experiences, hit the subscribe button. We're closing in on 100,000 members of our community, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. Thanks for joining me today, and as always, let's get moving. Bye.